I don't know whether to commiserate you or congratulate you for getting home on time. Let's commiserate you for watching Buatsi Stepien, which I heard wasn't the best. I've watched the highlights. I've not watched the full thing. I don't know if I want to put myself through watching the full thing. But for Buatsi's first fight on Boxer, I think we all wanted maybe a better performance. And look, Stepien could be just that guy that's a bit tricky for him, but we all wanted maybe a knockout to be explosive. We haven't seen him for over around a year, the Craig Richards fight. We needed a bit more, didn't we, from Buatsi?
Definitely. And, they gave him the big sell on Sky last week. There was the in-depth look inside his life, the gym. He talked it up a little bit more. He had a beautiful cut, as he always does. He looked fantastic. His jib, the cut of his jib is always amazing. He's a wonderful human being, is Joshua.
Yes, he is.
Always had a lot of fondness for him. He's a very deep person, a very deep thinker. But he needs to stop thinking deep.
Very religious.
Very, very spiritual man. But he needs to stop doing that. I know he flicks the switch and we see the eye of the tiger. He's a very tough human being. But I want to see the killer instinct more. I've got to say, I was underwhelmed by the performance. Pavel Stepien realized within 6 minutes of that fight, he was 2 levels below Joshua Buatsi. He went into an unusual defensive mode. The link-up of Virgil Hunter and Joshua Buatsi I find fascinating. Virgil doesn't rush anything. He's a naturally cautious man, and I think he's bringing caution out in Joshua. Joshua's been away, Joshua Buatsi, been away for a year. There was a bit of ring rust, but he gave himself 5 out of 10 for that performance, and that's what I respect about him. But we need statement performances from him. Pavel Stepien was just trying to survive in the end. My biggest disappointment in Joshua Buatsi on Saturday night was he didn't open Stepien up. What he could have done was, there was no head movement, no feinting. It was just straightforward. I'm going to come and I'm going to hit you with my jab, which was fantastic. You look back on that fight, how much feinting was there from him in 10 rounds? Hardly any. And it wasn't picked up on commentary. I'm not criticizing anyone, but he didn't do the things to open up his opponent for that magnificent stoppage that we needed.
Yeah.
5 out of 10, that's how I saw it.
Yeah, no, and that's what the very good elite level fighters do, don't they? They adjust. If you're going to have someone difficult that's going to be defensive, then you try and do something a bit different. As you say, maybe that double step, the feint, you do something different. You mentioned Virgil Hunter there, and look, Virgil Hunter's a fantastic trainer. Obviously, the Andre Ward link-up is what really kind of sets him apart from other trainers. But do you think it's a good link-up, though? Because I look at someone like Callum Smith and Buddy McGirt, and I can already see in Callum Smith a much more aggressive. So I can see the change straight away, as you know, a lot different from when Callum was with Joe Gallagher. Are you seeing the changes you want from this link-up with with Virgil Hunter and Joshua Buatsi already?
It's a very complex thing to talk about this. And I know Virgil really well. I've been to his gym so many times in Oakland. It's on the end of an industrial estate by the river across the water from San Francisco. And I have so much respect for Virgil Hunter, who used to get involved in Smokies back in the day, fights in the back of bar rooms when he was growing up. His mother was a Black Panther activist. His father was a musician. I know a lot about Virgil. He's a man steeped in African-American culture. He's a very cultured, a very urbane human being, someone who I respect deeply. When he brought Andre Ward through from the age of 9, who had an Irish-American dad who was a heavyweight, remember, and an African-American mother, he had a kid with sublime boxing skills who was very tough, also from Oakland. I've been to his favorite breakfast place with Andre. He's got a great movie out on his life, by the way, on Showtime at the moment, Son of God. And I was privileged to be asked to talk in that movie about him. I was about 3.5 stone heavier at the time. So it's this big fat version of Gareth in that movie. But what he had in Andre Ward was a guy who had a style that was able to, he didn't have a style, Andre. He could pick anyone else's style apart.
Yes.
He was the ultimate adapter. And I think he was pound for pound number 1 when he left the sport. But what I will say is this, what Virgil did for him was just preen and cultivate and groom that style to make him a great fighter. They never had to rush those two. Joshua Buatsi is in a little bit more of a hurry. And I know we'll come to it in the next section, but there's things I want to see from him against certain opponents coming up. He's got world-class qualities. Of that, there is no doubt. But we need the right matchups to see that combination work.
Yeah, I mean, Buatsi did an interview with Sky Sports, I think it was this morning, and I think there was a poll put out in terms of who do we want to see Buatsi fight next. I think A.Davies was in the poll, Bivol, Yarde, and Yarde topped the poll, Anthony Yarde. Is it a fight that just has to happen next? Like Frank and Ben Shalom get together, like they did for Joseph Parker, Joyce, and whatever platform it's on, and I know Box are going to want it on their platform because they've just signed Buatsi, but surely it's a fight that has to happen now. I feel like Buatsi needs it more than Yarde, because at least Yarde's had the Kovalev and the Beterbiev fights, whereas Buatsi's not had it. But surely that's what you do next with Buatsi. It's not A.Davies, and this is not discrediting A.Davies. It's not that. It isn't going to be Bivol. Surely you just give a big domestic showdown next.
I concur 100%, Eddie. Anthony Yarde is the man. Anthony Yarde is the man to match up with Joshua Buatsi. That is a fight. I think if I look at all the potential British matchups right now, that's the one. Because it will get the most out of Joshua Buatsi. Anthony Yarde will not sit back. He will bring it against him. We've seen that as he did against Artur Beterbiev. That's where Yarde is in his career. We will truly find out in those 12 rounds, if they go 12 rounds, who is the king of the light heavyweight division in the UK. Because I think both of them live with Callum Smith as well. I don't know what's going to happen with Callum Smith and Artur Beterbiev. Don't sit around, guys, and wait to see what happens in that fight first. Because Callum could maybe do a number on Beterbiev. Had a lot of lumps taken out of him in that Yarde fight, but came back and he is a spectacular master. But what I'd say is, Joshua Buatsi, I think, is world level. Yarde is definitely world level. If Buatsi can go 12 rounds with Yarde, I think he can edge it. Last week I did a poll, or the column, the case studies that Boxing News does. They ask a couple of questions in their panel. And I said Buatsi just eases just to a points victory over Yarde over 12 rounds. But after that on Saturday night, I'm not sure. I think it's a pick'em. And that's why I want to see it.
Final one on Buatsi. I've had my sort of, I wouldn't say back and forth, but I've done a couple of videos on Buatsi. He's not been too happy with what I've said. Did you expect more from Joshua Buatsi after the 2016 Olympics? Like, was that one of the guys you looked at and thought, yep, world champion? Like, because we're saying now pick him with Yarde, whereas a few years ago I'd have said Buatsi would beat Yarde, and now I'm not sure. I actually thought Buatsi was above the British level guys, like way above them. Like when he went points with Richards, it kind of opened my eyes a bit. And Richards is a great fighter, but I thought Buatsi was above this. Maybe I got it wrong. I don't know.
Well, you've got to look at what Richards did against Bivol.
Yeah, no, you are correct.
And look who Bivol's beaten. You've got to look at the size of Richards. Every time I stand next to
he's
that
massive,
man,
isn't he?
He's like a cruiserweight.
It's unbelievable. Like when you look at him on TV, you don't really see it. Then you stand next to him, you're like, wow, you're a big guy.
He's a telescopic fighter. He is. He's a lovely man as well. And he's threatening to beat me up over a round. You know, he wants to do a round with me.
Does he? Don't do it.
I won't do it. Only if I'm allowed to head kick and call a taxi straight away. But he's a really big guy, and Joshua Buatsi handled him well.
Yeah, good fight.
We've always said he's world level. He needs those big tests now. Forget fringe contenders like Pavel Stepien. Fringe contenders we're done with. It's time to move now, and I think they know that. They know that, and they've got to do it.